The alien spaceport of Vetrax Prime was loud, crowded, and full of shadows. Thousands of ships came and went every day. Traders shouted, thieves watched, and the poor begged. In the middle of this chaos, one young alien woman moved like a ghost. Her name was Kayla Rin. She had once worn silks, walked in gardens, and smiled at stars from golden towers. That life was gone. Now her clothes were torn. Her skin, once glowing with health, looked pale and weak. Her purple eyes were tired. Her silver-blue hair was tied into a dirty knot. She was hungry. No, not just hungry, starving. For 2 days, she had eaten nothing. She had sold everything she owned, her bracelet, her boots, even her family ring. No one cared. No one helped. Some laughed. Some tried to take more from her. Today, Kayla was ready to give up. She stood outside a small diner inside Docking Bay 12. Warm smells floated out. Cooked meat, spices, real food. Her stomach growled. She pressed her hand to the scanner, hoping by some miracle there was credit left. Insufficient funds, the machine said in a cold voice. Kayla closed her eyes. She had no more miracles. Then she saw him, a human. He sat in the corner, alone, eating slowly. He was tall and strong, wore a dark jacket. A simple bag sat next to him. He looked calm, tired maybe, not rich, not dangerous, but human. Kayla had heard stories about humans. Some aliens feared them, some hated them, some called them Death Worlders, creatures from a brutal planet who could survive anything. But Kayla saw something else. Kindness. Something in the way he gave his food a thoughtful look. Something in the way he didn't shout or boast like the others. Something in the way he looked up when an old alien dropped his cane and quietly helped him pick it up. Kayla's feet moved before her brain decided. She walked inside. Her legs shook. Her heart pounded. She stood in front of his table and said the words she never thought she would say. I have no credits for food, she whispered, her voice cracking. My body is the only asset I have left. You can use it for one meal. The diner went quiet for a moment. The human blinked. He didn't smile, didn't leer, didn't even look surprised. He just set his fork down and looked at her. His voice was deep and calm. Sit down. Kayla hesitated. Please, he added gently. She sat. He waved over the server, a small droid with blinking eyes. Bring her the same as me, and water. The droid beeped. 2 full meals, order confirmed. Kayla stared at the human. Why? He looked at her again. His eyes were gray, like storm clouds. Because where I come from, he said slowly, we don't eat people. We help them. Kayla frowned. I didn't mean... I know what you meant, he said. I just don't accept the trade. She looked down at her hands. But I have nothing to offer. You have hunger, he replied. That's enough. The food arrived. Warm, heavy plates of meat, grains, and vegetables. Kayla stared at hers. She wanted to cry. She picked up a fork with shaking fingers. I don't understand you. That's all right, the man said. Most people don't. She took a bite. Then another. She ate like a starving animal for a few moments before remembering where she was. She slowed down. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded. They sat in silence for a few minutes. The food filled her belly. It warmed her bones. She finally asked, What's your name? Mason, he said. Mason Riker. I'm a mechanic, freighter pilot. Kayla nodded. I'm Kayla. Kayla Rin. I used to be someone. I believe you. She stared at him again. You're really human? He gave a small smile. All day, every day. They say humans are cruel, dangerous. Some are, Mason said, but we're also loyal, kind, if we choose to be. Kayla looked away. Where I come from, no one helps for free, not even family. Sounds lonely. It is. Mason picked up a piece of bread and handed it to her. I don't know your story, Kayla, but I know this. No one should have to sell themselves just to eat. Tears welled up in her eyes. She turned her face away and wiped them quickly. Do you live on a ship? She asked. Yeah, small freighter, old but solid. Kayla looked nervous. Are you going to leave soon? Tomorrow morning. She was quiet for a moment. Can I come with you? She asked suddenly. I'll work. I'll clean. I'll do whatever you need. Mason didn't answer right away. Why? He finally asked. I can't stay here, she said. I'll die. He nodded slowly. You have experience on ships? A little, she said. I used to ride on royal transports. I know systems. Basic maintenance. All right, Mason said. Kayla blinked. All right? One condition, he added. You're part of the crew. I won't take orders from you, and you don't owe me anything except effort and honesty. Deal? She sat up straighter. Deal. They finished the meal in silence. When they walked out together, the spaceport lights were beginning to dim. Kayla looked up at the stars. For the first time in a long time, they didn't feel so far away. They reached his ship, an old freighter named Stubborn Hope. Kayla looked at it with wide eyes. It wasn't pretty, but it was real, solid, home-like. Mason keyed the hatch open and stepped inside. Kayla hesitated. Then she followed. Inside, it smelled like oil, metal, and strong coffee. She smiled. It felt alive. Mason pointed to a small room. You can use that bunk. Showers down the hall. We lift off at dawn. Kayla nodded. Thank you, Mason. He looked at her one last time. Get some rest. Tomorrow we fly. Kayla sat on the bed. For the first time in cycles, she wasn't cold. She wasn't hungry. She wasn't scared. She was safe. And maybe, just maybe, she had found something more than food. She had found a human. The engines of Stubborn Hope hummed gently as the freighter rose from the docks of Vatrax Prime and entered the cold dark of space. Kayla Rynn sat strapped into a co-pilot seat beside Mason Riker. Her hands were clenched tightly in her lap. She had flown before, but never in a ship like this, small, loud, and clearly hand-repaired many times. Mason sat comfortably, guiding the controls like he was part of the ship. His face was calm, his gray eyes focused. Kayla looked around the cockpit. Everything was mismatched. Some panels were newer than others. One screen flickered sometimes. A few switches were labeled with stickers instead of proper markings. It wasn't beautiful, but it was real. It worked, just like Mason. First jump in 5 minutes, Mason said. You ever done hyperspace in a freighter? Kayla shook her head. Only in royal ships. Smooth ones. Mason chuckled. This might rattle your teeth. Just hold on. She gave a small smile. It was the first real smile she had shown him. When the jump came, she gasped. The stars outside stretched into long lines, then twisted. For a second, her stomach turned and her ears popped. Then, silence. Mason leaned back in his chair. Welcome to hyperspace, Kayla breathed out. That felt like dying. He laughed again, but not in a mean way. Nah, you get used to it. She unstrapped and looked around the cockpit again. This ship, it's yours. Built her up myself, Mason said. Bought her cheap. Replaced most of her guts. She's old, but she's got soul. Kayla nodded. It feels alive. He looked at her. Ships are like people. Take care of them. They take care of you. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then quietly asked, Why did you help me? Mason didn't answer right away. He stared into space. I've seen too many people left behind, he said. War zones, broken colonies, starvation hubs. No one helped them either. Were you a soldier? She asked softly. Something like that, he replied. Doesn't matter now. What matters is doing better than the last guy. Kayla looked down. I thought humans were dangerous. Mason shrugged. We are, but we're not monsters. We just feel things harder, fight harder, care harder. She looked at him again. Do you always help strangers? No, he said, just the ones who don't deserve to be forgotten. Kayla looked away, eyes stinging again. She hated how easily his words touched her. No one had said anything kind to her in so long, it felt like a wound being reopened. Later, Kayla explored the ship. The living area was small but warm. A table with 2 chairs, a tiny kitchen with real food containers, not printed rations, a shelf with old books and tools. There was a plant in one corner. A plant? She asked, surprised. Mason was fixing a loose panel nearby. Yeah, makes oxygen. And it's green. Reminds me of Earth. Earth is green? Parts of it. Forests, grass, trees. Kayla touched the plant gently. I've never seen a real forest. Maybe one day. She looked at him again. Do you always live alone? Mason shrugged. Easier that way. No one to disappoint. No one to lose. Kayla didn't answer. She knew that feeling too well. Over the next few days, Mason showed her how things worked. He taught her how to read the ship's system logs, monitor energy levels, and check for pressure leaks. She learned how to cook simple meals in the tiny kitchen, how to use the ship's maintenance tools, and how to reset the navigation array when it glitched. At first, she was clumsy. She dropped tools, misread gauges. Mason never yelled. He simply corrected her, showed her again, and waited for her to learn. That was new for Kayla. In her old life, mistakes had meant punishment, cold words, disappointment. Here, mistakes were lessons. On the 5th day, she repaired a loose valve by herself. When she showed Mason, he gave her a rare smile and said, "Nice work." Her chest felt warm. That evening, they sat together at the small table. Kayla was eating slowly, enjoying every bite. Mason had found some spicy earth sauce and poured it over everything. It made her nose burn, but she liked it. She looked up. You never asked about my past. Mason looked at her but didn't push. You don't have to tell me. I want to, she said. She took a deep breath. My family ruled a small moon. We were nobles, not rich but respected. One day, a mining syndicate wanted the land. My father refused to sell, so they made him look like a criminal, had him arrested, took everything. Mason listened quietly. I ran, tried to hide, thought I could save him. But I had no power, no credits, no help. They used to call me Princess Kayla. Now, I'm no one. Mason leaned back. You're not no one. She looked at him. Then who am I? He met her gaze. You're Kayla Rin, a survivor, a learner, someone who fixed a valve all by herself today. She laughed softly. You make it sound heroic. Out here, fixing your own mess is heroic. She thought about that, then asked, Do you trust me? He looked at her for a moment. Yes. Why? Because you've had chances to lie, and you didn't. She nodded slowly. Thank you. That night, Kayla couldn't sleep. She sat by the cockpit window, staring at the endless stars. Her reflection looked back, tired, thin, but more alive than she had felt in months. Mason walked in quietly and sat beside her. He held 2 mugs, handed one to her. She sipped. It was something warm and bitter. Earth drink, coffee, he called. Kayla looked at him. What happens now? We keep flying, he said. We take jobs. We survive. Together, if you want. She looked down at the mug. I do. Suddenly, a loud beep came from the console. Mason leaned forward and checked the screen. "Job alert," he said. "There's a cargo run. Available. Needs fast delivery. Pays well." Kayla smiled. "Let's take it." Mason nodded. "Strap in." As the ship turned and adjusted course, Kayla held onto the side rail and laughed. It was bumpy, chaotic, and perfect for the first time she wasn't running from something. She was flying toward something. A future. Later, as they prepared to land at the next station, Kayla looked over at Mason. "Do humans always do this?" she asked. "Do what?" "Save people. Take them in. Give them food, work, hope." He gave a half smile. "Only the good ones," she smiled back. "Then I'm glad I met one of the good ones." The freighter's stubborn hope floated silently near a quiet moon named Zareth Prime. Its surface was cold and dusty, marked by craters and silver rock. But deep below the surface, wealth flowed, rare metals, crystal veins, and power. Years ago, this moon had been ruled by Kayla's family. Now, it belonged to the Zareth Mining Syndicate. Kayla stared at the image on the screen. Her fingers trembled. "That's it," she whispered. "That's the moon they stole from us." Mason Riker stood beside her, arms crossed. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had seen this look before. Pain, anger, fear, all mixed into one. "You don't have to go back," he said gently. Kayla shook her head. "I do. My father was taken because he stood up to them. I ran. I've hated myself every day since." "You were trying to survive," Mason said. "But I left him to die," she whispered. Mason didn't argue. He simply said, "Then let's find out if he's still alive." They landed near the outer settlement, one of the old towns once protected by Kayla's family. Now it looked like a prison camp. Tall fences, armed guards, cameras everywhere. Mason adjusted his jacket and powered. "Down the ship. We keep it simple. Ask questions. Watch everything. If it feels wrong, we leave." Kayla nodded, but her hands stayed clenched at her sides. As they walked into the colony, people glanced at them. Some with fear, others with interest. Most looked tired, worn out, like they had no hope left. Kayla noticed broken buildings she once visited as a child. The old gardens were gone. Her heart ached. They stopped near a food vendor. Mason bought 2 flatbreads and handed one to Kayla. She barely tasted it. "I used to know the names of every worker here," she said. "They would bow when I walked. Bye. Now no one looks at me." Mason chewed quietly. "Power changes fast. Fear spreads faster." They found a local repair shop and asked about Kayla's father. The old alien behind the counter narrowed his eyes. "Lord Renal Rin. He was taken to the deep mines years ago. If he's still alive, he's a slave now." Kayla's breath caught. Mason leaned in. "Where are these mines?" The alien looked nervous. "You didn't hear this from me, but the Western Ridge, level 6. Only prisoners go there, no one comes back." That night, they waited outside the compound, hidden near the fences. Kayla wore dark clothes, her hair tied back. Mason checked his datapad, watching the guards' patrol patterns. "You still sure about this?" he asked. Kayla nodded. "I have. To see him. I have to try." Mason gave her a look. "We do this clean. No hero moves." She gave him a tight smile. "I'll follow your lead." When the moment came, they moved fast. Mason used a small device to disable the fence's power. They slipped inside, hiding in the shadows. Kayla's heart pounded like a drum. Her legs wanted to run, but she forced them forward. Inside the mine compound, everything smelled like dust and sweat. They saw workers, thin, tired aliens in chains carrying heavy tools. Then Kayla stopped. Her breath caught. There, among the workers, was a man. His back was bent, his hair gray, but even in his pain, He held himself with pride. Her father. Father, she whispered. He didn't see her. Mason placed a hand on her shoulder. We can't get him out like this. Too many guards. Kayla turned to him. Then what do we do? Mason's eyes narrowed. We don't steal him out. We break the whole system. The next day, Mason walked into the syndicate office. Kayla waited outside, nervous, watching from the ship. Mason wore his best fake smile and carried a small data package. Inside the office, the syndicate manager was a thick-skinned alien named Vorak. He had sharp teeth and sharper eyes. And you are? Vorak asked. Captain Mason Riker, freighter pilot. Just passing through, Mason said. But I heard your mining operation needs parts. Old ships, old systems? I can help, Vorak snorted. What makes you think we need help? Mason slid the data chip across the table. Because I hacked your security system yesterday. It's got holes bigger than your profit margin. Vorak paused. Mason leaned in. You've got prisoners, illegal labor. That's bad news if it reaches the Interstellar Commerce Bureau. Vorak growled. Are you threatening me, human? No, Mason said calmly. I'm offering you a choice. Fix your mess, or I send this to the Bureau and every news feed from here to Sol. Vorak stared at him, then smiled. You've got guts. I'll give you that. Outside, Kayla paced. When Mason came back, she ran to him. What happened? They know now, Mason said. And they don't like it, she frowned. Won't they just bury the truth? Mason smiled. Not if we light enough fires. That night, they sent the data package across the galaxy, leaked files, images, reports, everything Mason had gathered. Within hours, responses poured in. The Bureau sent a warning. A human journalist from Earth requested an interview. Local colonies began asking questions. The syndicate's image started to crack. Kayla watched it all in silence. She still couldn't believe it. Mason had turned her pain into a weapon. She looked at him. Why are you doing this for me? He shrugged. Because someone should have done it a long time ago. 2 days later, the mine was stormed by independent inspectors. Guards were arrested. Chains were cut. Kayla ran into the mines before anyone could stop her. She found her father again, this time face to face. He looked up, eyes full of confusion and hope. Kayla? She dropped to her knees. I'm here, Father. I'm here. He touched her face gently. You survived. She nodded, tears falling. And now you will too. Mason stood at the edge of the crowd watching. He didn't speak. He didn't need thanks. Kayla stood beside him after the reunion, wiping her face. My family's name is cleared now, she said, but everything is gone. Not everything, Mason said. She looked at him. What now? He nodded toward the ship. We fly. You choose the next star. Kayla took a deep breath. For the first time, she had choices. The entire colony of Zereth Prime was changing. It had only been a week since the inspectors came. The syndicate guards were gone. The chains were broken. The prisoners, now called workers, were paid, clothed, and treated like people again. Ships brought supplies daily. Inspectors walked the streets. Cameras rolled. People were smiling. And in the middle of all that, Mason Riker, the human, was the problem. At least, that's what the syndicate believed. Inside a polished office on the capital world Alexar, 5 syndicate executives argued over a single name. Mason Riker exposed our operations. He's dangerous. He's just a freighter pilot. No, he's more than that. He's human. You know what they're like? Always interfering, always protecting the weak, emotionally unstable, morally stubborn, impossible to bribe. Deathworlders. Why are they always so difficult? Meanwhile, on Stubborn Hope, Kayla Ryn stood on the deck, reading a transmission on a tablet. Her face was pale. Mason, she called, walking into the engine room. They've placed a price on your head. Mason was half inside a power conduit, grease. On his hands, he wiped his face with a rag. "How much?" 50,000 credits, she said. He whistled. "That's generous." "This is serious," Kayla said. "The syndicate wants revenge. They're calling you a destabilizer." Mason sat up. "Well, I did destabilize their slavery business. I guess that counts." Kayla frowned. "They won't stop. They'll send bounty hunters, agents, spies." "I know." She looked at him hard. "You could leave. Go back to Earth. Disappear." Mason shook his head. "And let them keep hurting people?" "No." Kayla felt frustration rise in her chest. "Why? Why do you keep risking yourself for others? You barely know them." Mason looked at her, eyes serious now. "Because I do know them. I've been the starving kid. I've been the forgotten soldier. I've been the outsider no one helped." He stood and wiped his hands. "When humans see injustice, we don't look away. It's just in our blood." Kayla stared at him. In her mind, she remembered the day she met him. Dirty, starving, desperate, offering herself for food. He hadn't looked away then either. That evening, a message arrived from the Interstellar Council. It was from an alien, named Ambassador Veltan, a neutral diplomat. He invited Mason and Kayla to a summit on Nerith Station, a neutral zone near the edge of galactic law space. The message read, "Your actions have drawn attention. Some want punishment, others want answers. Come speak for your kind, or others will speak for you." Mason scratched his chin. "Sounds like a trap," Kayla said. "Or an opportunity." He looked at her. "You really want to walk into a room full of powerful aliens who hate humans?" She smiled faintly. "I'll be right next to you." 2 days later, Nerith Station, Interstellar Council Chamber Mason and Kayla walked into a tall chamber made of glass and light. Representatives from dozens of alien worlds sat in curved rows, each seat marked by the flag of their species. The room fell silent as the human walked in. Eyes followed him. Whispers started. Some were shocked. Others were angry. One even hissed. Ambassador Veltan stood and gestured. "Welcome, Mason Riker, and Kayla Rin of Zereth." Kayla bowed politely. Mason gave a small nod. Veltan spoke to the room. "This human is responsible for exposing illegal slavery on Zereth Prime. He acted alone, without weapons, without armies, and yet he forced justice. We are here to ask why," the crowd murmured. One thick-skinned alien barked out, "Because humans are chaos! They interfere in our systems." Another said, "He violated local laws." A third shouted, "He's only one man." Mason stepped forward. "I'll tell you why," he said loudly. The room went quiet again. "I'm human. That means I come from a world that tried to kill me every day, with storms, fire, ice, disease, predators. Earth is a death world. But we survived." He looked around the chamber. "We survived because we help each other. We fight for those who can't. We build. We protect, and we don't bow to bullies." Some aliens scoffed. Others leaned forward. Mason continued, "You say I broke your rules. Fine. Maybe I did. But your rules allowed slavery. Your rules turned nobles into beggars. Your rules failed." He raised a hand. "I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness. I came to say this. If you keep hurting people, humans will keep coming, one at a time, or all at once." The room was dead silent. Kayla stepped forward next to him. "I lost everything. My name, my home, my pride. Until one human showed me kindness. Now I stand here because of him, and I'm not the only one." Mason looked at Veltan. "What now?" Veltan stared at him for a long moment, then spoke. "To the room? This human caused disruption? Yes, but he also brought justice. We must ask ourselves, is the real problem his actions or our silence? Some heads nodded, others did not. But the message was clear. Humans were not going away. After the summit, Mason and Kayla walked down a quiet corridor. She smiled at him. "You just yelled at the galaxy," he grinned. "Felt good. Do you think it mattered? Maybe. Maybe not. But at least they heard us." Back on the Stubborn Hope, Kayla sat in the cockpit while Mason checked systems. She looked over. "So, what's the plan?" Mason smirked. "We take the next job. Keep flying. Keep fixing what we can." Kayla tilted her head. "You know, you've become famous." "Great," Mason muttered. "I hate famous," she laughed. It was a clear, joyful sound, one Mason hadn't heard from her before. He looked over. "You okay?" Kayla nodded. "Better than I've been in years." She paused, then said softly, "Thank you, Mason, for everything." He gave a small smile. "You're part of the crew now, Kayla. That means we look out for each other." Her eyes softened. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do." She stood up and walked to the window. Stars drifted by in the dark. "We're not just flying," she whispered. "We're changing things." "Yeah," Mason said, "one star system at a time." The stars outside the viewport of Stubborn Hope shone quietly, distant and steady. Inside the ship, Kayla Rin stood near the navigation console, watching the faint glow of distant worlds on the screen. It had been months since the battle against the Syndicate on Zareth Prime, since the Interstellar Council meeting, since Mason Riker had saved her from hunger and fear. She was no longer the desperate alien who offered herself for one meal. She was more, stronger, free. The ship hummed beneath her feet. Mason worked nearby, adjusting some tools on the engine. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "You ready for this?" he asked. Kayla nodded. "Good," Mason said. "We're about to dock at a new station. I picked up a job for us. Cargo. Run. But it's dangerous. Pirates, military patrols, high risk." She felt a thrill she hadn't known for years. The danger was real, but so was the chance to prove herself. "Let's do it," she said. As they prepared for the run, Kayla felt the weight of the past and the promise of the future in every breath. She had lost much, but she had gained more. Home. A purpose. A friend. Mason handed her a data pad. "This has the details. Navigation routes, security codes. You'll be co-pilot." She smiled. "I'm ready." The jump through hyperspace was rough. The ship rocked. Warning lights blinked. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. "Pirates!" Mason growled. The ship shook violently as laser blasts hit the hull. Kayla gripped the controls. "Maneuvering!" She twisted the ship, weaving between stars. Mason fired the ship's defenses, a small turret that blinked red. "Hold on!" Mason shouted. The pirates pursued, but Kayla's sharp eyes and Mason's quick fingers kept the ship just out of danger. After minutes that felt like hours, the attackers gave up and fled. Kayla exhaled deeply. "That was close." Mason laughed. "You did great." After the fight, as the ship docked safely, Kayla sat next to Mason in the small living area. He poured 2 cups of steaming liquid, coffee again, and handed her one. She took a sip, then looked at him. "Mason, why did you save me that first day? When I offered myself, why didn't you take it?" Mason's smile faded, replaced by seriousness. "Because no one should ever feel that desperate. No one should have to sell themselves just to eat. Not on my watch." Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "Back home," Mason continued, "we have a saying. Every person has value, not for what they can give, but because they are." She nodded slowly. "I never believed that." "Maybe you needed to meet humans," Mason said gently. Weeks passed. The freighter moved from system to system. Kayla learned new skills every day. She fixed engines, negotiated deals, navigated tricky star maps. But more than that, she grew. Stronger, confident, hopeful. One evening, Mason and Kayla sat outside the ship on a quiet moon's surface, watching the stars. Kayla turned to Mason. "Do you think I really have value after everything?" Mason looked at her, eyes soft but firm. "You don't have to ask me. You already proved it. To yourself. That's what matters." She smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes. Then came the unexpected, a message from the Interstellar Council. They wanted Kayla to speak at a special event about her experience. At first, she hesitated. Public speaking? Facing the galaxy? But Mason encouraged her. "You have a story that matters. People need to hear it." On the day of the event, Kayla stood before a crowd of thousands, humans and aliens alike. She told her story honestly, of hunger, fear, loss, and the kindness of one human. Her voice was steady, her heart was full. When she finished, the crowd rose in applause. Among them were former workers from Xereth Prime, now free and hopeful. Among them was Mason, smiling proudly. After the speech, a young alien woman approached Kayla. "You gave me hope," she said quietly. "I was lost. Now I can dream again." Kayla's eyes shone. "Then my story wasn't just mine. It belongs to all of us." Mason came over and took her hand. "You belong," he said simply. Kayla squeezed his hand. "Thank you." Back on Stubborn Hope, Kayla sat by the window, watching the stars. Mason came beside her. "We've come far," he said. "We have," she agreed. He looked at her thoughtfully. "What's next?" Kayla smiled. "The future. Together." Mason reached out and took her hand again. Together. They sat quietly, the stars shining bright, a galaxy full of chances waiting for them.